So today's content framing question is, what does a deeper exploration of Masako's decision reveal about her character? So before we get started with today's lesson, I want us to kind of review some things that I've noticed in your classwork that some of us are getting confused about. So first, let's talk about the genre of Tea with Milk. So the genre of Tea with Milk is realistic fiction. And so although the book states on the last page, I was their first child, that doesn't mean that Alan Say is the one that's speaking. Because remember, this story is made up, it's fiction. So all we know as the reader is that the narrator is Masako's son. That is all we know. We don't actually even know the narrator's name. We just know that the narrator is Masako's son. So again, it is not Alan Say. Alright? Alright, so here is your welcome activity for today's lesson 10 classwork. First, I want you to follow along as I read the directions, and then I want you to follow along as I read page 28. Reread page 28 of Tea with Milk by Alan Say, shown below, then answer the 2 questions. Are you planning to stay in Japan? May asked. That depends, he said. If you have certain things, I think one place is as good as any other. What sort of things? Oh, a home, work you enjoy, food you like, good conversation. How about you? Would you like to go back to America? I think so, someday, she said. I wouldn't have to be such a proper young lady there. I could get a job or drive a car and nobody would think anything of it. And that was the beginning of their friendship. They often met after work and on weekends. One night in the late fall, they had dinner at a restaurant they liked. After a while, May noticed that she was doing all the talking and Joseph was not eating his food. Are you all right? She asked. Joseph nodded but said nothing. As they left the restaurant, May said, Tell me what's wrong. They are transferring me, Joseph said. What? They are sending me to another office. Where? Yokohama. No. All right, so this is page 28, and I want you to answer these 2 questions and write your answers in the boxes on the right. The first question says, what does Joseph say he needs to be happy somewhere? And the second question says, what does May say she needs to be happy somewhere? So the second part of today's lesson, or more after your warm-up over here, we're going to be looking deeper into Masako's point of view. And again, as a review, point of view is how one feels or thinks, right? Think about the little imagery that we had from weeks ago, as well as previously we have learned in ELA in 3rd grade. So here are 2 charts that you need to fill out. The first chart, you need to find evidence that Masako does not want to live in Japan, okay? So you need to find at least 3 pieces of evidence from the text. And what I'm going to try this time in this video is I'm going to include images of the book from the beginning to the end so that you can look directly on the YouTube video to answer these charts, because I'm noticing that a lot of us are having a hard time navigating through, and I understand like going through different tabs and things like that may be difficult. And I know that some of us are playing the YouTube video on the screen and then we're looking or we're taking notes with our pencil or pen and paper. But some of us don't have that kind of access to multiple technology devices. So what I'm also going to include, again, I'm going to include pictures of the pages of the book in this video. I'm not going to read out loud, but I'm just going to post the picture so that you can look through the book as if you're like flipping through an actual book on this YouTube video. So anyways, back to our classwork. So here you're going to write down the page number that the text is found on. And then here you are just going to write exactly what Alan Say wrote in the book. Just text straight from the book. Evidence that proves that Masako does not want to live in Japan. So hint, hint, think about how she was forced, right? That paper or that page of the book that we were looking at yesterday, right? Of how she was forced to do flower arranging, learn the tea ceremony, learn calligraphy, right? Those are pieces of evidence that Masako did not want to live in Japan. So again, you need 3 pieces here. And then the second organizer is evidence that she does want to live in Japan. So hopefully you're thinking about, in the beginning of the story, middle of the story, or end of the story, does it show that Masako does want to live in Japan? So hint, hint, I suggest you look towards the end of the story. Okay, so again, finding 3 pieces of evidence from the text that support that she does want to live in Japan. Okay? Then, once you are done filling out these organizers, you have a question that you must respond to. The question is, what caused Masako to decide to stay in Japan? Hint, hint, think about the page that I just read to you at the top of the classwork. That'll really help you to remember what caused her to stay. Okay. And I want you to at least write 3 sentences here. Please do your best to write 3 sentences. Okay. And that's it for the classwork, although you do have a Socratic seminar that I'm going to explain in the next segment of this video. After the book. All right, so your next activity is going to be fluency. So there is no way for me to check up on you that you are doing this, but I am trusting you that you are going to be practicing your fluency. So please follow along as I read out loud to you, and I'm underlining as I'm reading the sentence. Once they arrived in Japan, she felt even worse. Her new home was drafty, with windows made of paper. She had to wear kimonos and sit on floors until her legs went numb. No one called her May, and Masako sounded like someone else's name. There were no more pancakes or omelets, fried chicken or spaghetti. I'll never get used to this place, she thought with a heavy heart. Worst of all, Masako had to attend high school all over again. To learn her own language, her mother said. She could not make friends with any of the other students. They called her Gaijin and laughed at her. Gaijin means foreigner. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to practice reading this 3 times. Yes, just like we have practice in our fluency, homework assignments, since module 1, I want you to practice reading this passage 3 times to yourself, or if someone is home with you with like an older sibling or mom, dad, auntie, uncle, grandma, grandpa, that'd be great so that they can double check your reading. So please, again, read this 3 times. The video is going to show this screen for about 3 minutes. And so during the 3 minutes, I want you to practice reading this 3 times. Okay? So the last part of today's classwork is actually going to be a Socratic seminar. So I know that we can't respond to each other live because we are all in our own respective homes. So instead, we're going to do kind of like a live discussion board. And so it is actually located in your classwork section, but you do need to scroll down. Your Google Classroom may not look the same as mine because I am a teacher and you have a student account. However, I did place this part of the classwork in a separate document, and it's not really a document, it's just a question where you are going to be able to write a short response in response to this question. Okay, so the question, oh, I'll put another one down here. But the question is, did Masako make a good decision when she chose to stay in Japan? Why or why not? And so that's the question that I want you to be thinking about as you reread the book. And I'm going to trust that you are rereading the text before you answer this question. What you can also do is look at your previous classwork that I have returned to you to kind of refresh your memory about whether you think that she should have stayed in Japan or if she should have gone back to California. Okay? And so the first thing you need to do in this Socratic seminar is answer the question, did she make a good decision? What do you think? Again, this is your opinion, so your answer cannot be wrong. Okay? The only wrong answer is if it has nothing to do with the question. As many of you know, that is a problem or something that we need to continuously work on is staying on topic, but that's okay because we are in the 3rd grade and it is still difficult to stay on topic. However, we do need to practice in order to really be able to do that because that is a 3rd grade skill. So anyways, I digress. And so you need to first and foremost answer the question. So here you'll see that I included some sentence starters to help you with your response, as Ms. Toma likes to give you tools to help you be successful. All right, so the first one says Masako was right to stay in Japan because. So that's a sentence starter if you think, in your opinion, that she should have stayed in Japan. She made the right choice. The second sentence starter, Masako was wrong to stay in Japan because, is if you feel that she didn't make a good decision in staying, that she should have left and gone back to California where she originally wanted to go. Then, this third sentence starter, one piece of evidence that supports my opinion is, that's another sentence starter to include text evidence from our book, Tea with Milk. So again, as you know, most of the questions and whatever writing prompts that Ms. Toma gives you, or in the future, your future teachers will give you as you continue on your educational career, is that you need to back up your opinions with reasons and with evidence. So again, I don't want you to just write, yes, she made a good decision. No, I want you to write, Masako was right to stay in Japan because blank. One piece of evidence that supports my opinion is blank. Okay, so now here, I give you more directions. So the first part is that you need to write your own answer, your own response. Then you post your answer. And what I want you to do is I want you to look and read through other students' responses, because the second part of this activity is that you need to also respond to at least one other student's response. So just because you wrote your answer doesn't mean that you're done. What you need to do then is you need to refresh the page or come back to it at a later time. Or if you complete this part of your assignment later in the day, you'll see that people already kind of, or your classmates already responded to the prompt. And I want you to respond with respect, like we used our agreeing and disagreeing respectfully sentence starters. I agree with blank because blank, or I hear you, but I disagree because blank. Okay? So again, treat this like a Socratic seminar, like we've practiced in class, where we've sat in a circle and we take turns talking to each other, except here you are writing to one another. Also, you see here that there are more prompts to continue the discussion. So if it's starting to become too much of, I agree, I agree, I agree, or I disagree, I disagree, I disagree, here are some more questions that you can answer, that you can add onto your response or to someone else's response. So these questions include, what were Masako's feelings about living in Japan at the beginning of the story? And what were Masako's feelings about living in Japan at the end of the story? Then another one is, what caused Masako's feelings to change? And based on what you know about Masako, what can you infer about how she might feel about her decision as she grows older? Okay. So that last question is a really deep question that I want you to think, an inference, right? What can you infer? What can you predict based on what you know about how she feels in the beginning of the story and at the end of the story? And I want to challenge you to also think about what you know about grandfather. Okay. What about grandfather as he got older? How did he change? Right. And so these are some questions that I want you to also think about as you are responding to your classmates' responses. And you can respond to anyone in the response. Doesn't matter if they are in our class 324 or 322. If they're in a different homeroom, that is fine. Just respond to another classmate with respect. And this should be kind of cool, kind of fun. I don't know. I hope so. But yes, so please complete this. This is your last part of your classwork. And then you have your exit ticket. All right, so here's your exit ticket for today. The prompt should sound very familiar as it is your Socratic Seminar prompt, but did Masako make a good decision when she chose to stay in Japan? Answer the question and explain if the Socratic Seminar changed or confirmed your answer to this question. So based on what you read from what other people said, did that change your opinion of whether or not she made a good decision when she chose to stay in Japan? And again, I want you to be thinking specifically about or mention Joseph if you did say, or if you think that Masako made a good decision, because again, he's an important character. I noticed that some of you did not include him in your plot during your story elements classwork for Tea with Milk, but I just want to emphasize that he is an important character that does allow Masako to change. Hey third graders, so this is the end of week 3. I just wanted to say personally, I'm so proud of you, and I hope you're reading my comments because a lot of you are really surprising me in your analysis of the text, and I can just see the growth that's already happening in the past 3 weeks, which makes me really happy that this is working, that we are still learning during these trying times. And so I just wanted to say face to face, since you can't really see my face all the time in all the videos, but I just wanted to say that I'm super duper proud of you, and that let's keep up the great work. Yeah, I hope you all are staying safe. Please feel free to email me about any questions you may have. I know that I've been calling a lot of you, and so yeah, I just wanted to say I miss you too. Please make sure you are watching the videos before completing your classwork and reading the directions carefully on the classwork. I am watching you.